Hello everybody, I'm SnipingIsFun, and in my video I'm going to bring you guys today, it's going to be my entry to the Super Smash Bros. 4 roster contest, creator roster contest that has been happening on Project Newcomers on Facebook, and this is going to be my roster for that contest, which is officially my third roster update, like how you've seen like back at the end of 2010 and 2011 when I did my rosters for Smash Bros. 4 and I updated it. This is going to be my official third one, but this is going to be my video talking about it for the contest. I am going to do my actual own update video later on with the same exact roster, going more in detail like I did back then, where I type stuff out and go into facts of why they're here. This video right here will just be a quick discussion, a quick little couple of reasoning why I feel these characters make sense, and that's about it. You could expect that video probably by next week sometime, hopefully, but this video is just going to be here today because the roster contest ended tonight, or technically ended yesterday, Saturday, but so if you didn't turn your roster in yet, it's late now, but you'll be up. I'm going to be putting the video up of the roster so you can be included in the voting at least, but I'm going too far into that. I'll probably put all this stuff into the comment section or the video details, video description. So I'm going to get onto my roster right now before I take up way too much time talking about this. I'm going to go from left to right, and I'm going to talk about each character individually. First and foremost, my roster is 48. I think that's a good size roster, and it's an improvement over, Brawl, which was 35, so it's 13 more spots in a natural, like 10, 20, 30, 40 kind of progression for the Smash Bros. Series. I have 18 newcomers, 30 returning characters, because like Pyro Tycoon said, you don't want to take away too many of the older characters, because that's kind of like bringing people back, and they can play as their older characters that are slightly improved, new movesets and looks and whatnot. So I want to bring like a decent amount of characters back, but I'll still including a decent amount of newcomers, because you don't want to sacrifice one for the other. You won't want to put too much newcomers in there without taking out too much old, but you don't want to put too many old in there and not give enough newcomers. So I gave a decent balance there, and I talk about those 5 replacement characters at the end. But first and foremost, I'm talking about Bowser Jr. Basically, he started off on the GameCube generation and whatnot, but he didn't play that much bigger role in there, so that's the reason why it made sense that he was not in Brawl. However, on the Wii and DS, and now 3DS, and eventually Wii U, he's played such a big role in those games. He was basically been both Galaxy games, both New Super Mario Bros. Games, actually now technically all 3 of them, and probably in the Wii U one as well. And he was in like all the Mario Karts, Mario Parties, Mario Sports games, and he was all over this generation. This was the generation that defined Bowser Jr. Let alone the fact that he's recent, like I said. And also it'd be a new villain rep to the Mario series, and his moveset based off like the Galaxy games and New Super Mario Bros. Games would definitely be different than his dad's. And I don't think he'd be probably the more popular choice, but I think he's the more reasonable, making sense choice at this point. Although I think popularity could be debatable, because I think there are a lot of people out there that do technically want him. And that's my reason for that, the fact that he has played such a big part in the Wii and DS generation, which is where they're mainly going to pull characters from this time, because they always seem to go based off the previous generation for each Smash Bros. Roster for the most part. Now Lil Mac is, of course, he's a legendary Nintendo character. He's been around forever, and his series was brought back this generation. And that makes sense for why he would be there, and other than the fact that his style fits fighting games easily. He's a boxer, and we've yet to see that in Smash Bros. So of course Lil Mac will be, into the series as well. He'd make a lot more sense, because he'd technically be a retro, not retro character, because his series did come back. And also he makes sense because he's recent, he was brought back, and he's a legendary series too. He's a main character from the legendary series, from Nintendo. And there you go. And it represents the Wii, because his game's quite popular. Like, people like the new Wii one. Shulk, Xenoblade Chronicles was pretty much like one of Nintendo's bigger games this generation. It was one of their newer IPs, one of their bigger new IPs. It's pretty much considered popular all around the world, and basically, especially in America, since you had Operation Rainfall literally fight forever to get that game here. And Shulk makes the most sense because he's the main character, and he has the Monado, and the Monado is like the main focus of the entire game. And I wouldn't be against technically having more than one Xenoblade character, but I think more than likely we'd get only at least one. I don't think we're gonna get two. And that's why I just put Shulk, because it makes sense because he's the main character and whatnot. And it's basically it, like, and how popular it is and how his moveset can be different from a lot of other sword users, because the Monado, while typically being a sword, it's like a futuristic sword and it can have magical abilities. And even then, if you have magical abilities on a sword user, it doesn't mean they have to be exactly the same, because technically a lot of characters we've seen with swords do technically have magical abilities too, but it doesn't mean that you could go into their game and take stuff out of it that makes them different. And basically, like I said, Shulk's recent, popular, and so on and so forth. Matthew, I do believe Golden Sun deserves a character, but I don't think Isaac is the best choice at this point, because he mainly defines the GBA generation. He doesn't define the DS generation except for his adult self, which I don't think that version would get in, but that's the only version I could see of him getting in if they decide to take him. So that's why I took Matthew as the new main character, his son, and they basically share the same powers. Their magical abilities, their sword attacks, they would be pretty similar. And he's more recent. He represents Dark Dawn on DS, and that's mainly the reason why I picked him. Now, with the small little change I made to Zelda here, since they're going to basically be based off their Skyward Sword selves, I would like maybe to make it fit and match a little bit more. On my last roster update, I made it Skyward Sword Zelda with a Skyward Sword version of Sheik. I don't think that would necessarily work so well, so I replaced her with Impa. So it'd be like the same thing. Like, you can integrate Sheik's moveset into Impa, because they do technically fight pretty darn the same, pretty much. And it kind of makes them fit better. So instead of like a transformation spell from Zelda to Sheik, it'd be like a spell that takes Zelda out and puts Impa in, or vice versa. That kind of thing. And it just makes it represent Skyward Sword just a little bit better, instead of just having a random wacky Twilight Princess Skyward Sword type mesh, which probably wouldn't work so well. And then I added Girahim because he's technically one of the more popular recent additions to Zelda. He represents Skyward Sword a lot. He played a major role in that game. He's a new villain. His personality matches the series in general. He's quite popular, and so on and so forth. It's just like he seems like he'd be the best representation, because I do think the next new Zelda character should be a villain, and he makes the most sense because he's the most recent and is very popular, and he played a big part in this game. And like his moveset, he has a sword, but I could see it as more of a down B, switching in and out of the sword. And he does have projectile attacks, and so on and so forth. He fits this game very, very well, and I think he is the best, character for the series to be represented. Issa, Sin and Punishment now, just like Little Mac, Punch Out returned. So is Sin and Punishment. We never really initially got the original game, and it's kind of old now, and it was only brought out as an import on the Wii Virtual Console. So I think, like I said, with Isaac being too old, Saki is still also too old, and I think his son Issa makes the most sense, because he is the main character of this game, and this was the return to the series. So you would probably want to take the main character from the return to the series. And also, it's just like Matthew, he kind of fights like his dad anyway, so they have the same moveset. But he makes more sense because he's recent. And it's a return to the series in the first game that was technically localized normally during that generation. Then we get to the Pokemon roster, and I basically took out the Pokemon Trainer Gen 1 because that was basically the Game Boy Advance, and I replaced him with two Pokemon trainers. The Johto and the Hoenn trainers. I put in the Hoenn trainer because the Heart Gold and Soul Silver remakes on the DS, and the general popularity of Gen 2 as well, so I basically put the starters in there. I basically changed, it doesn't specifically say in this picture, but my choices were basically, forgot the general character, let me give it a second here. But basically I have Feraligatr as the final evolution, Bayleaf will be the first, and then Qualiva will be the second. So I basically changed it up from there. So instead the water is the final, the fire is the second, and the grass is the first, evolution. But then when it comes to Pokemon Trainer Hoenn, that's going to be like the next step of the Kanto trainer. It's going to be the same evolutions and the same status. Blaziken will be the fire, and then there will be I forgot what the second evolution of the grass one is, will be the second, and then Mudkip will be the first. And that's also because what represents there, if the games are out by then or not, the third gen remakes that are going to be on the 3DS, and you know, if it's not, it could be also like advertisement for those games. And then of course Zoroark is the 5th generation. He represents the newest generation at the time on the DS, which has 2 games now, and his fighting style does technically represent, you know, fighting game. Travis touched on, I think No More Heroes, the series pretty much made its big step and is pretty much one of the more popular third-party games on the, you know, on the Wii. And I think his creator wants him in. His character concept makes sense. They brought in Snake, and he was like a mature M-rated character. You could censor Travis just like you did Snake. His fighting style makes a lot of sense because it's new and different. It fits into the game. He has a beam katana, and he does wrestling moves. That is vastly different than anyone else on the roster. And he is generally considered a popular new character, and he fits into like the popularity range. When it comes to Andy, I do believe Advance Wars deserves another character, but I wouldn't go so much in the new ones because Days of Ruin, not a lot. I think Days of Ruin is a one-time off game in its own separate entity world. But Dual Strike was a continuation of the Game Boy Advance games. Andy is like one of the major characters in the game. He's been in all 3 of those, and his moveset with the wrenches could be very, very different. Sheriff, just a retro character, mainly because he's like one of the oldest Nintendo characters ever from like a 1979 arcade game. Mega Man, because he has so much history with Nintendo, and he also was all over the Wii and DS, at least the DS. Even if it's not original Mega Man, it was all the ZX and all that stuff. Ridley is like one of the basically the main villain from like Metroid, and like basically Samus's rival, and they could downsize him like they did Bowser, and his style does fit in well with the series. With the return of Kid Icarus, I do believe it gets should get the second character. It could be Medusa, Magnus, Palutena. I was originally going to put in Magnus, but Palutena is just, you know, to add another female rep to the series, and she's kind of like a goddess mage character, which would be kind of different, and she does have history with the series. I added a Belmont because of not only the fact that it's a legendary franchise on Nintendo systems. It's been with them basically since day 1 on the NES. Basically, it was a series that was all over the DS, and it did have a couple of Virtual Console and Wii releases, and like one in Castlevania Judgment, so I do believe it is in there. My picture, I picked Trevor because he's going into the future game, but it could also be Simon. You know, that picture right there is basically Trevor Belmont. Micaiah is the new Fire Emblem rep because she played such a big part in Radiant Dawn, was one of the major characters in the game, one of the main characters. She's a female rep. She adds something different to the series, not another sword user. And she's a mage now, a book mage, a light book mage, and like generally she's kind of popular. You could see that a lot of people do actually like her, and she is recent, and she's also Awakening DLC as well. And of course the Mii, which I'm just saying because it's the general popularity of like the Wii console, and it would be a representation for the Wii in general. You could pick your own Miis. It has a moveset based off all the Wii, like sports and music and play and all those games, and basically anything like that. And that's basically those. And when it comes to the characters I took out Falco because I could easily see him and Fox having an integrated moveset and him being an alternate character for Fox. Same thing with Lucas. He could be taken out and represented there, especially since Lucas was a Game Boy Advance character. I'm not saying he couldn't stick around, but I'm saying it would just be a way to save up one spot because him and Ness aren't really that much different. Just integrate their movesets together, just like Falco for Fox. When it comes to the Pokemon Trainer Gen 1, he was mainly there because of the Fire Red and Leaf Green on Game Boy Advance, and even though Gen 1 is pretty popular, it's not very recent right now, and I kicked them out. And I took Lucario out because it was basically a Gen 4 representation. He kind of replaced Mewtwo as like the new popular legendary character, had a movie or two, and so on and so forth. And basically Zoroark is the same thing, so I replaced him with that because he's more recent and represents Gen 5. And then I kicked Snake out because, well, Snake was nowhere near Wii or DS at all. And don't bring up the 3DS remake of Snake either, like the 3D version, because that really wasn't much of a big addition, and he wasn't really there. And he was initially there mainly because of Twin Snakes and his character on his knees begging Sakurai Kojima Kojima big in Sakurai. So you know what? I just think Travis makes a lot more sense as like the M-rated character. And you know that's basically my roster for the Smash Bros. 4 contest. I hope you guys liked it, and look forward to when your voting comes up. If you want to vote for my roster, you can. If you don't, you don't have to. See you guys later.